Mr. Godman, can you tell us what Bhagwan taught us about the challenges we have on the path? If we're doing self-inquiry or we try to surrender, what are the main or difficulties one might face while practicing these teachings?
Almost every day somebody emails me who's come to Ramanashram and says, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Something's bothering me. So I go to Ramanashram, I sit and talk to them, and I would say the most common complaint is I'm doing self-inquiry and it's not working, what am I doing wrong? The supposition behind their question is possibly I'm not getting results, therefore I'm not doing the method properly. I don't think that's the correct way of looking at it. It's a very, very long, drawn-out process from the moment you start until the moment you succeed. One or two exceptional devotees got it very quickly. They asked themselves, who am I once, or they came into Bhagavan's presence and immediately recognized the self. But with the vast majority of people, they had to sit down and spend a long, long time doing what for most of them is a very tedious and boring process. They might start off with an initial buzz. They have a honeymoon period in which everything seems to be going very well. They get their little bursts of peace, they get their bliss, they get their happiness, their mind seems to be coming under control, and they think, this is it, I found the perfect teacher, I found the perfect method. And then that little burst seems to subside, and then it just becomes hard and boring, and they try a bit more and it's even harder and even more boring, and then they come to Ramanashram and say, what am I doing wrong? And the answer is absolutely nothing. It's the nature of the mind to have this initial burst of excitement when it gets this good method, good technique. It somehow creates these feelings of happiness, peace when you start. But the process of inquiry and surrender, I think it's like stirring up stuff that's been latent and hidden for a long time. The more you look at yourself, the more you inquire into yourself, the more garbage starts to jump up from inside of yourself. And so the more your mind starts to fill with all these extraneous things. Also, one other thing to realize is that when you're not doing spiritual practice, you're not really aware of how cluttered and chaotic your mind actually is. Your attention is on your work, on your family, and there's just a background burbling away of all your desires, fears, fantasies going on that you don't really pay much attention to because you've got external things to worry about. So when you actually stop looking at all these external things and put your attention instead on the mechanism of your mind, how the I arises, how it connects with things, you suddenly think, oh God, what a mess. It's not that you've suddenly become a lot worse, it's that you've stopped looking at the things that your mind normally wants to engage with, and you've actually taken the manhole off your own private sewer and you've looked down and recoiled in horror. So this is a kind of a standard reaction to people who stop looking at the world and instead have a good hard long look at themselves. So number one is, don't worry, everybody has this, everybody goes through this except a few lucky souls who seem to be destined to get it in one visit to the Guru. The vast majority of people don't. And the only solution is perseverance. There is no magic bullet. This is what I have to tell people several times a week. You're not doing it wrongly, you're not doing it badly. It's just a very long, serious commitment, and it's not something that you have a linear progress on. This is something else people need to know. It's not like, for example, if I try to learn Spanish and day one I learn 3 words, and after a couple of weeks I can string sentences together, and after a year I can go and do my shopping, but not much more. But after 2 years I don't get up one morning and not know a single word of Spanish. All this is linear and it accumulates in my mind. Whereas with meditation, you can actually wake up after 5 years of sitting every single day and your mind feels worse than it did on day one. Again, don't panic. You're not doing it wrongly. You're not doing it badly. There is no accumulation of silence in the mind, and that every day you can access a bit more of it. What's really happening is that every day you're picking up the manhole of your sewer and more of the stinky stuff is coming out, and every day you have to deal with it. And there's an awful lot of stuff down there going back countless lives, and it's not going to go away in a few weeks, a few months, or even a few years.